What's up, Brian?
Brian.
What's up, guys? Happy
Go
Friday. How are you both?
After you, Kobe.
Yeah, man, good. You made it. We both made it. All three of us made it through another week. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah.
I was telling Trav earlier in the day, I read this new Rick Rubin book that I'm excited to like dive into over the weekend. It's like Art of Code. He talks about vibe coding and stuff. So it's very exciting couple of days. I'm ready to clock out and go dive in.
Rick Rubin's the producer, right? If I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, music. Yeah.
Mhm.
Big fan of his.
Yeah, I mean, he's touched so much music that
Yeah.
you know, if you looked up what he's worked on, like it'd be, I'm surprised every time.
That's
and his
amazing.
way of producing is so unique because he kind of just vibes out in his
He doesn't play
backyard
any
with
instruments,
artists. I know. It's
right?
all
So
about the
like,
mindset.
and so of course he would be attracted to talk about vibe coding, where like the vibe coding tool is like the instrument, which is you know pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were just talking charts. Trav, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, no, Brian, also doing very well. It's been a productive week. I'm so happy that we were actually able to connect on another stream. We definitely teased to the audience that we've connected on live streams a bunch of times now. Always had some pretty incredible alpha from those live streams, but definitely teased that you've got some new indicators that you're hoping to share with us today. And regardless of everyone else's reaction to that, personally, I'm beyond excited to check this out because it's been a while. So, yeah, man, thank you so much for joining us today. Hope everything went well this morning for you. I know you mentioned some things came up. So, yeah, real quick to touch base. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. We just had a little This Week in Crypto market update video.
Perfect.
So that was a fun time. I always enjoy just chatting with our CEO Maxim about the markets. And obviously, it's been a bit of a down week, at least for Bitcoin. Ethereum is performing quite well, interestingly, which is the first time we could say that in quite a while.
Yeah.
But I think there are a few factors that we can pay attention to in crypto markets right now, and it begins with the tariff stuff. That's kind of been what's shaking things up over the past 2 months now, ever since the bombshell from April 2nd, where Trump first announced them. And I think right now what we're watching is how the market's reacting to this latest news about the federal court blocking his tariffs, at least temporarily, while they litigated. Of course, the White House has immediately appealed it. We're not a political channel. I know you guys aren't either, but we at least follow it, and we can't deny that this is impacting markets right now. And from what I'm seeing, the markets have mostly reacted positively, at least in the stock world, but they have not done much in crypto. So the question is, are we going to see a bit of a catch up over the next couple of weeks if stock markets can keep pushing those all-time highs that they're at right now? Or is crypto starting to get a little more worried because they're the more sentiment driven between the two, right? Because stock markets, you've at least got reliance on companies and debt to equity ratios, PEs, and all of that. Crypto is just, how does the crowd believe crypto should be valued? And are they extra scared or extra confident right now? And my opinion is there's still a bit too much optimism right now from the crowd, which it sounds like that should be a good thing, but markets generally go the opposite direction of the crowd's expectations. And right now, they're showing a little too much FOMO still, and they're wanting to buy this dip down to 105K. We want them to be scared that the markets are going to fall below 100K. And those are usually the signals that we're about to bounce before we ever even get to 100K. So it sounds kind of like counterintuitive, but the data is just telling us we're waiting for a bit more fear before we can just see that blast off to a new all-time high again.
Well, that's super exciting. And I know the reason why it's super exciting for me right now is that I know that we're about to see this live on charts, and it'll just absolutely prove everything that you just said here. One really interesting point that kind of ties into what you were saying there, Brian, is that Kobe brought up an interesting catalyst of FTX settling Today, I think it was 11 p.m. EST, several billions of dollars worth of liquidity back into the market. And so I was also wondering if that could be kind of one of those sell the news sort of situation, or even sell the rumor situation here. I know it just happened, but it looked like the recent downturn started at around, or even yesterday. I forgot. I'm looking at the hourly chart here, or on the 27th rather, is when this most recent downtrend really begun. So yeah, I'm all that to say, I'm just curious to know how that's going to play into all this, how it's going to play into the next couple of days here to see where Bitcoin price goes. So here, guys, here's what I'm thinking. We have about 20 minutes left of our space today. I unfortunately, Brian, do have a pretty hard out at 10 o'clock today. So I'm going to propose Kobe has a 1 minute.
You know what? No. I was thinking we could do 1 minute TA anytime. You know, now that Brian's here, let's just, we can skip that. That's totally okay.
I love it. Okay, Brian.
I still don't mind hearing the TA take too, but yeah, I'm happy to kind of lead based on what the metrics are showing on Santiment, and maybe you can chime in and tell me how this kind of compares to what you're seeing. I love hearing other people's takes. So
okay, yeah, let's do that.
Awesome. So let me know if my screen is coming up okay.
Crystal clear.
Perfecto.
Oh, I very much miss going through this dashboard here, and I'm actively containing my excitement. So if it comes out every once in a while, my bad. I apologize to no one though. So let's get at it. Let's get at it.
Yeah. So as you can see over the past week, it's mostly been a downturn. There are some exceptions. I'm not sure why Grok is showing up here as a top 10 because it's not a top 10 market cap, but sometimes we have, when there's like a big gain, it can show like a bit of an artificial inflated market cap. Either way, Grok was a big winner. You can see Toncoin finally rebounded a bit. It had like a 22% breakout over the span of like 20 minutes. And that was the main reason it had such a big day after announcing a partnership. I can't remember with who, but that's been big. Ton token, its cousin token, is also doing well. Uniswap, Chronos, just a few gainers, but you can see they're mostly few and far between because most of markets are going to follow the direction of Bitcoin, as we know, which is now sitting at about 104.1K. We talked in an insight yesterday about
real quick, Brian, before I stop you, just to comment on the ton and the Grok thing. Like, so Please. There was a partnership between Telegram and XAI.
Okay.
So basically you're going to be able to build like custom, like get Grok in your Telegram group chat, essentially. So totally makes sense why that would be, they would have that correlation and kind of be like outliers against everything else.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. Sometimes I can see the data, but I can't always keep track of the stories associated with why the data.
I'm the other way around. I'm the other way around. So perfect.
Yeah. That's why we're all here together. But you can also see social volume. Like in general, there's just a lack of discussion toward crypto. Most of these blocks in red indicate we're getting way less chatter across social media this week about crypto than we saw a week ago. And part of that makes sense. You know, the 22nd was when we saw that all-time high of 112K. So naturally, all the media publications are going to pop out and start talking about Bitcoin and crypto in general again. And generally during down weeks, people take a breather from talking about it, unless it's a massive down week like we had the first week of April, when the tariffs were just causing havoc in all markets. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. When there's less enthusiasm, it just means that there's a lot of dip buy opportunities that are going a bit under the radar. And we can, on that note, look at some of the social trends that are popping up right now. I really like this new tab that our team just launched. It basically summarizes the top stories. This is the first time you're seeing it as well, Trav, but
yes,
we can see stuff like Coin Live launch, which is, I think, just related to Livecoin. The SEC regulatory update, which these are all AI generated, by the way, which is amazing. So when I wake up in the morning, I usually check out what the biggest stories are that, you know, we're pulling from thousands of different comments across social media, and the AI will just give me like 2 or 3 concise sentences about why this is trending. But apparently the SEC dropped its lawsuit against Binance, generally a good sign for crypto. That means that other opportunities that might be similar to, you know, what Binance is doing, they can confidently pursue what they want to do. So anytime crypto wins against the SEC, or the SEC just gives up like they did against Ripple for much of the last year with all these appeals and stuff going on, it's a good sign. So that's a trending story. Ulbricht's Bitcoin Return, the founder of Silk Road, he delivered a keynote speech at Bitcoin 2025. This was also where JD Vance was. So that's been generating a lot of discussion. James Wynn was the whale that a lot of people have been following, and he saw a huge liquidation loss of about $100 million in Bitcoin.
What? Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Is this the dude who owns the airlines? Is it Wynn Airlines? I'm not quite sure.
That's a good question. I don't want to assume, but
Fair.
I do know that there was this 40x whale that had been, yeah. So this has been super viral. I'm not positive if it's like confirmed to have been James Wynn or someone else who also got screwed, but you can see like over the past week, there have been a lot of huge leverage positions opening up with this, a couple different whales, but apparently even with liquidations, like, yeah, so this guy confirms it's James Wynn right here.
Wow.
So if we can trust him, this was what it was. There was something like a 104.8K price liquidation target that a lot of people were following.
Yeah.
And we just dropped below that a couple hours ago, and this guy was on it. He's been reporting about it throughout the past week. So of course the crypto community was fascinated and rooting for him, because any liquidations of a huge whale position like this generally isn't a great sign. That means there's that much less capital in the trading books that's keeping prices propped up. We could still bounce from here, but you don't want to see massive longs get liquidated, because it has the opposite reaction of a short liquidation, which people usually celebrate because that extra capital moving back into circulation helps pump up prices.
Yep.
So in this case, we're now, you know, going to have to be a little worried about less capital keeping prices propped up. That being said, as we can see the latest, another whale lost everything, blah, 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 blah. But
Hyperliquid, oh man, okay.
he also just opened another 40x long position. So good old James Wynn is not too dissuaded by his financial loss, apparently.
Apparently not. Yeah,
Unreal.
$99 million liquidation before that, just to like take another swing. Crazy.
Yeah. Insane. So that's, you know, we don't always follow these pieces of drama and like one specific whale, but when it's this size,
oh yeah,
that's going to have an impact on markets for sure.
Oh, 100%. That, yeah, I'm looking at that now. The 40x Bitcoin whale James Wynn just opened a new $46 million long. Here we go. Unreal. Wow. So I'm very curious to know how that's going to play out. I mean, Bitcoin is dumping right now. I'm curious where the stop loss is for 40x. It can't be that far down. So very, very interesting here. We will certainly see.
Definitely. Notice the commentary too. Everyone is kind of bashing
Ultimate
him.
Degen. Okay, yeah. Ultimate Degen, though, I'm curious. Sometimes that could be a bit of a compliment here as well.
A little, maybe a term of endearment, if you will.
Yeah.
Touche. Yeah, it could just be a compliment of this guy's got some balls of steel.
Yeah, he's one of us.
Yeah. Translation: gambling addiction.
Yeah.
Yes.
At a much larger scale than mine.
Yeah, indeed.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
We also, on a separate note, put out a full market update yesterday.
Perfect.
Where we just talked about a few things. This was, of course, the federal court blocking the Liberation Day tariffs. Doesn't mean there's no more tariffs. It just means that it now has to be litigated, and the White House is appealing it. In general, I do think, even though the stock market reaction was good to this, I think that people are realizing this is going to be a long road of not knowing where things are going to go next. and it might just mean that there's going to be a lot of uncertainty.
Mm.
There was already a lot of nervousness, even when he paused like the China tariffs a couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
and he paused the EU tariffs. What was it, like Monday or something? Yes, markets went up and crypto was starting to rebound as well, but it didn't mean anything was resolved. It just meant that he was putting a pin in it so they could all negotiate uh, a permanent resolution in the future. So I was already saying on some content last week, even when we hit an all-time high, like, yes, this is a time for celebration. We've never seen a market value of Bitcoin so high, but it is foolish to think that this saga is over when they're clearly saying that this is just a kick it down the road situation. It's a pure buy the rumor, potentially sell the news scenario if we get close to like that 90-day pause deadline for China that started a couple weeks ago and no deal's been made. So
100%.
that's kind of what we're telling people. We also highlighted this. You can see the point in which the crowd got extremely greedy on the day of the all-time high. When that happens, you know, Trav, from some of our previous videos, markets tend to collapse pretty quickly because of all the
Yes.
retail just trying to buy and get in any way they can. And the whales saying, here you go, you can have some of mine. Here you go, take that, go for it. And they know they can just push prices down and then buy back after the crowd gets scared a few days later following the retrace. And that's exactly
100%.
what happened. Even when we were at 106K and Trump was giving threats to the EU for 50% tariffs, that was the time to buy, and we rebounded nicely. And now we're kind of in this mid-range. I think after today, it's going to start looking like this again because everyone is concerned that we go below 100K.
That makes a ton of sense. And we're certainly heading there pretty. Oh, wow. Yeah. And we are officially at 103, 707 right now. So
They're really trying to liquidate homie again.
very
yeah.
much so.
Win, yeah.
James, he's going to have to change his name to James Lose pretty soon.
Yes.
So,
Oh, that's brilliant.
A question for you, Brian. So how do you weigh, or how should, you know, how would you suggest someone weighs the kind of like countering internal arguments? You see the data and you say, okay, when there's high fear, usually a good time to buy. How do you weigh that with okay, I'm also a real person watching the news and saying like, oh, dang, this is certainly uncertain. I'm not sure what to do with my capital. Of course, you know, NFA, do your own research, all that. And I'm not asking for you to give any advice, but like, how do you personally balance those two things?
So I have the caveat of saying that I don't own crypto. That really is the truth. Sometimes people believe that, sometimes they don't. So I literally don't have any trading skin in the game. But what I recommend for people is to take every piece of news, especially related to this tariff stuff, with a grain of salt, because there's the reality of what's going on behind closed doors between Trump's talks with China and the EU, and then what he and his administration are communicating to the media. And oftentimes what they communicate to the media is based on how, you know, people are reacting to their 401ks. If things are going down, they usually come out with some good news saying, don't panic, things will be okay. And, you know, in the case of April 9th or so, which was the price bottom back then, he was completely right. He told people now's a good time to get back in the markets. And literally like within 24 hours, we started seeing an explosion upwards for both stocks and crypto, mind you. They were going up together. I think in general, the administration is somewhat reacting to how the public is. One thing you can say about Trump, whether you're pro or anti, is he is very in tune with what people think about him and his policies. So if the sentiment is getting super euphoric, you know, that's kind of what he wants. He wants people to like him. If the sentiment is really starting to show fear and like doubt in what his decisions are, that's when you see him putting a lot of pauses on tariffs or capitulating a little on what his original threat or demand was. So I think that the sentiment, I'll just open that in a separate tab as I talk. I think that the sentiment is actually a really good counter signal now, more so than ever, because
It's a ton of sense.
Trump and his administration is looking at how people are perceiving things.
You should have a Trump indicator that shows how bullish or bearish he is in the moment, or
Yeah.
I guess his reaction to, or maybe a Trump versus macro sentiment indicator of,
Ooh, there's our SAS idea.
There
That's
is.
interesting. Yeah.
Very
I mean,
interesting.
we can at the very least, like, simply just type in any keyword. So I could type in Trump or Donald Trump, put that into the social trends calculator here, and it's going to pull how many overall mentions there are with him overall. And that can sometimes be a very good indicator. Very much, it's a reversal indicator from what I've seen, especially like over the past month or so. You can see, you know, Trump was mentioned super high right after the all-time high, and then we go down. You could see right here, Trump is being mentioned a ton right at the bottom, and then we launch. So
interesting.
He's kind of this on and off switch for markets, where when his specific name gets brought up a lot, it's usually because there's some sort of policy change or switch in perception from the crowd that causes markets to move the opposite direction.
Fascinating. And we could definitely see right now, right before this move that we're seeing, or actually even as we speak, there's definitely quite a spike of Trump chatter, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. 2.61% of all discussions going on in crypto forums are related to Trump. So that's pretty significant.
And we're like arguably like approaching like a local bottom as well, of like 103, 102.7, and 102.5, something like that. Like it could totally mirror something that, you know, that you showed there on the previous chart, or on that chart right there.
From a short-term perspective, this is probably a good sign that he's being brought up a lot. It's probably a lot of people blaming him for this downturn, regardless of whether that's the truth, and getting fearful and frustrated. He gets brought up when emotions are high. That's as you would expect with the most prominent name in the world.
Right, especially in crypto. He was supposed to be, you know, like the trend, or the like the tone in the trenches, so to speak, was he was supposed to be the guy to save, you know, he was the crypto president. He was supposed to come and save everybody's bags. Trump's gonna buy our bags, right? Like of course it didn't happen like that at black and white, right? Now, election day was crazy. That was probably the only day I thought I was a good trader in my whole life. But besides, besides that, he's kind of been a letdown for folks that are in crypto every day.
Although, sorry, go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say, as you were saying that, I zoomed out to the past year. This is when he was elected, November 5th.
Yeah.
And you can see what that did to the markets.
Yep.
This is when he was inaugurated, the 19th or 20th, depending on your time zone. And we immediately go down.
Wow.
And then this is where the tariffs are mentioned, and we immediately go up. Those are like the three biggest spikes over the last 6 months.
And it's so amazing how correlated it is. One also interesting factor about Trump is that we've already seen numerous times that his announcements and his policy making has often coincidentally coincided with his rich friends, if you will, gaining a ton of profit in the markets, whether it's because it's going up or down. They always seem to know in advance which direction to bet on where the market's going to go here. So just another little sprinkling of variables to add into this conversation.
There are more than a few people that are being vocal about all of this tariff stuff being nothing more than market manipulation. I don't have a personal opinion. I don't sit in the White House or listen to any of those convos. Wish I was a fly on the wall, as we 100%. All do. But yeah, I mean, that is a theory, and it can't be disproven right now. So think what you will. The tariffs are real, right? We have seen effects of real consumer goods here in the US. I'm sure you guys have too. So it's not just a giant bluff. You have to have some actual reality to this back and forth discussion about tariffs. Otherwise, everyone would just scoff at it. But yeah, we have very much seen, you know, coincidentally at the final 3 minutes of a market, of the US stock markets being open. Suddenly a big announcement of a pause happens or a big threat happens. And then the next day, of course, they either go up or down respectively huge. So,
Yeah, I'd be in the camp for sure that there is, I'm not gonna take a stance for sure. Like, actually, yeah, I am. I'm taking a stance that yes, I believe that all of it is 100% market manipulation. I write about AI and tech news every single day, and when Nvidia was started talking about the electronics or what was it, chips, basically the imports to make their GPUs. And how it connects to AI. And as soon as they started complaining and said, "Oh, Trump's like doing terrible. We're not going to be able to get this stuff in." That's when the bottom was in. The bottom was in on Nvidia. It's been up 25% since then, which is a lot for stock of that size.
Yeah.
So yes, 100%. I bet you all the money that I don't bet on that being true.
Wild.
Yeah.
And just a quick update here as well. The hourly candle just closed for Bitcoin, and it had about a 1.8% drop. Still looking pretty red here. Very, very small wick. So we'll see what direction price continues to go. But right now it looks like it's wanting to push down a little further. So back to you.
Yeah, that's a big red candle. And I know you're getting close on time. But I wanted to mention for the bulls out there, this is encouraging. The fact that WHALES over the past, give or take 3.5, 4 weeks, since May 4th, when you look at 10 to 10K BTC wallets who hold about 68% of the entire supply.
Wow.
They've accumulated about 49,701 Bitcoin.
Wow.
Despite prices doing what they've been doing, even since the top on the 21st or 22nd, depending on your time zone, 112K on that day. We've seen WHALES add almost 16K despite prices going down about 7.1% or so.
Wild.
So that's a nice bullish divergence, right? If you see the key stakeholders of a coin, especially Bitcoin, adding more and more as prices go down, we call that a bullish divergence. It's a short-term one. Sometimes it makes more sense to look from like a monthly perspective, but if this trend continues and they're continuing to just add more coins that retail is dropping because they're scared, that means that eventually we'll see another big bounce like this one.
Wild. And even if you take a look back, even from a bit of a higher time frame here, back in January, price started to drop all the way up until the end of March, early April, and they were still accumulating that entire time. That is quite the divergence here. So I wonder how much of it is still playing out, how much of this is contributing to a potential new uptick. Very, very curious here. All of this is very encouraging. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah, as long as they're not flat, like just staying neutral or going down, it usually means prices can go the right way. But you can see from the day Trump was inaugurated up until like mid-February, not much accumulation. Then here they're actually dumping from February 21st down to March 12th. And yeah, prices during that time when they're actually dumping, 16% drop during this time. And then all of a sudden they accumulate with all of this stuff going on. The tariffs, of course, throw a huge wrench into everything, but they're continuing to add on during this time when everyone else is freaking out. And eventually we just get, huge surprise days here on April 20th and 21st. And now all of a sudden we see an all-time high less than 2 months later.
Wild. No, I appreciate that because it definitely kind of gives perspective and context onto, how significant these subtle high or the subtle uptrends and subtle downtrends and even the flat areas are. I guess I'm just so used to looking at, smaller market cap coins where it goes very quickly up and then down, whereas this one is a bit more subtle, but very, very powerful actually here. That's so cool to see.
Definitely, guys. Yeah, that's about all I have. I think overall we're probably in tune for some sort of short-term relief rally.
Okay.
I wouldn't say we're going to fly right back up to a new all-time high unless there's some factors that Trump and other situations announced in the very near future. But you know, when we come off an all-time high like we just had 8 days ago, there is an expectation that it's just going to continue and we're going to see 115, 120. The reality is there's so much euphoria that comes with any all-time high that you have to breathe for a little bit and allow all of those newbies that came in to the space just because of that all-time high to get humbled and exit the space as soon as they jumped in. Maybe that'll happen really quickly, but a lot is going to depend on the macroeconomic factors right now.
Perfect. One last question I want to ask you, Brian. As per usual, I'm always curious about this one indicator here. But can you tell us a little bit about the mean dollar invested age and tell us where it's at right now?
Yeah, great question. I'll just share my screen one more time because it's easier to visualize it. But I was
Absolutely.
looking at that on my This Week in Crypto call this morning, and it's still going down, which is a
Okay.
great sign. Overall, the age of average wallets, which is what the mean dollar invested age represents, is down from April 20th until now about 4.5%, which isn't bad at all. Historically, if we go back, let's say 8 years, go all the way back to 2017, every time we see this line drop, it coincides with a bull cycle. Sometimes they're super short, sometimes they can go on for a long time, but I best suggest this metric as kind of a validator. Like if you're seeing prices slowly climb and then maybe they draw down a little bit, if you're still seeing this mean dollar age line going down, that's a pretty good sign that we're still in the bull cycle, even if it feels like the rally might be over on the short term and you're looking at candles right now freaking out. If dormant coins are continuing to move back into circulation from some of these large whales, that's almost always a sign that the rally isn't done yet. So yes, we're moving down. You can see from the perspective of like these other huge rallies, this isn't a huge slope or anything. But if it really starts to fall off a cliff, meaning the average wallets are getting way younger, it's a great sign that we can start to blast off again. So it's good that we're not getting stagnant right now. I would just like to see this slope get a little more,
A little steeper.
drastic like that. Yeah.
Perfect. Kobe, now you can see why I always get so excited about this one because it typically has called out bull cycles in the past and like validated them, which has been very, very exciting here as well. One last thing is I'm just kind of scrolling through the dashboard that I have here open as well. And the weighted sentiment is already below kind of the neutral zero line here, which is a huge drop from where it was before. We saw kind of like a high in sentiment going way back to Christmas, actually. And now seeing it drop so significantly with this downturn in price, hopefully is another bullish sign here for a short-term rally coming up. So yeah. So Brian, just to kind of summarize before we wrap up this call here, kind of the thesis based on everything we've looked at today is hoping for a short to midterm relief rally. And that's if I'm understanding that correctly, that sounds about right.
Yeah, especially with the weighted sentiment starting to show a lot of bearishness in the retail crowd right now. They certainly are starting to panic. Sometimes you'll see a drop and people are like, oh, buy the dip. This is the time. This is the time. Right now, I think people are legitimately feared or legitimately scared that we're going to drop below 100K.
100%. And it's interesting too, because looking at the RSI, we were talking about that earlier, but now I'm looking at the one on the sentiment dashboard here. It is tanking. It is going so much lower, so much faster than actual prices. And there's definitely like several hidden bearish divergences going all the way back to April 29th, actually, which is incredible here. And then the total amount of Bitcoin holders is the highest that we've seen. My chart goes all the way back to December 24th, but I'm going to imagine even before then, it will like this high goes back quite a bit further than that here. Actually, I can go back further. Yeah, we are at like a record high right now for total amount of holders of Bitcoin here since its creation way back when here in 2009. So
Huge.
a lot of exciting things. A lot of exciting things here. Any kind of final reactions there, Kobe, based on all of this? Are you geeking out as much as I am?
Not as much, but I'm still excited. I just love the overall, like, my vibe every time we look at this stuff is that often it reminds us to second guess your initial vibe or whatever it might be, right? Like, whatever you think or feel about the market, I'm not saying you're wrong, but just second guess yourself. Often this type of data exists to counter the human element. And so, yeah, definitely would suggest to go over there to Santiment and check it out. I did post their call from earlier down in the comment on the original post for the live stream. So yeah, definitely go over there and check them out. I'm super excited. Do people like connect to your API and like make their own like dashboards and stuff? Like,
Yep.
what's it? People can do that, and can they charge for their dashboard?
They could, yeah. I mean, we don't forbid people, make their own content and they can share on their own as long as they're API members with us.
Of course.
You can use it as you please, hook up a Python script. You can even use a tool called Google Sheets where you can make models directly in the respective platform and basically just have our API providing data directly into your platform. So you can say, show me the Bitcoin price for the last 30 days, and it'll instantly make rows of 1 day each with the closing price. You can do more complex stuff. Show me the network growth of, Dogecoin or any asset that has data for that respective metric. So there's a lot you can do with the API, and anyone who's into that advanced type of analysis, who wants to make stuff beyond the main metrics we have in our platform. It's a really cool, genuinely cool tool that you can find some amazing stuff that no one else has seen before.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's I got the itch now to go dig in. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for the nice shout out. Really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And now I'll end by saying this here. Since Brian, you showed up here, I think you have this conversation single-handedly has brought the market back up here. So what we may be seeing now might actually be a liquidity grab. So for our 75 viewers watching us right now, you're welcome. You're welcome.
That's what we do. Santiment has that kind of influence, apparently.
Indeed, Brian. You got a little dust on your shoulder. You may want to go. There you go.
That's Thanks. Good looking out.
Got you. Awesome. Everyone, thank you guys so much for joining us. Brian, Kobe, absolute pleasure as always. This has just been so fun and just chill and relaxing and educating. So I feel like my time spent with you guys is time very well spent. I definitely feel richer, and my port thanks you. So I would absolutely love, and Kobe, Brian, hold me accountable for this, to do this more often. This has been a blast here. Yeah, to everyone who's hanging out with us today, very much appreciate you guys. Look at that. In the past 30 seconds of talking here, we have 6 more people jumping into our call here. So guys, definitely stay tuned. Your presence and your interest and your engagement has shown us that we need to be doing more of these. So stay tuned, and we'll be back ASAP. Yeah, appreciate you guys. That's it for me. Have a wonderful day.
Great chatting, guys.
Awesome. Take care, everyone.